In the 8th month of the fiancée being pregnant with her white moonlight's child, the woman finally noticed something was wrong. She asked her brother, "I've been busy with the pregnancy, has Fang Yuan not?" Caused a scene, her brother was confused. Fang Yuan already publicly announced the cancellation of the engagement and even packed and sent back your things. Didn't you know? The woman froze, her face turning pale. She didn't know that I had overheard the conversation between her and her brother on the day I was discharged. Bai Ningbing, are you crazy? Did you really keep it from Fang Yuan and give his bone marrow to He Qiang? In a private hospital in Lincheng, Bai Heiyu rushed into the ward and pointed at Bai Ningbing on the sofa. Bai Ningbing slightly raised her head, her beautiful face frowning as she said helplessly, "Brother, only Fang Yuan and He Qiang had matching bone marrow. I had no other choice." Bai Heiyu looked at the report of Fang Yuan being hospitalized for half a year due to infection and was furious. "No choice, you clearly knew. Fang Yuan was in poor health, yet you lied to him about a gastric illness and made him take this risk. I wonder if He Qiang cast a spell on you back then too. Make him smile, you went racing and ended up paralyzed for 5 years. For those 5 years, Fang Yuan stayed by your side, now that you've recovered. And half a year has passed, just as He Qiang's illness got better, you went along with his nonsense to do IVF." At the ward door, Fang Yuan, who just finished discharge procedures, heard Bai Heiyu's angry words. His hand against the wall tightened, the smile on his face froze, and he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Half an hour ago, the doctor said his gastric surgery infection had fully recovered. Bai Ningbing had put on a wedding dress and proposed to him on the spot. He had cried with joy and even posted on his moments, saying that today was the happiest day. Inside the ward, Bai Ningbing lowered her head, her fine black hair obscuring her dark eyes, making it impossible to see her expression. "Brother, help me block the news of these things. Don't let Fang Yuan know. He Qiang's grandmother doesn't have much time left and her only wish is to hold her grandchild while she's still alive. I don't want her to have any regrets." Bai Heiyu's face was grim, his black eyes full of anger. "Then what about Fang Yuan? Who in our circle doesn't know he has loved you for 8 whole years? I remember it very clearly. 8 years ago, He Qiang was rejected by the Shen family daughter. To vent his frustration, you deliberately approached Fang Yuan to flirt with him, making the Shen daughter who liked him jealous. Now you are pregnant with He Qiang's child. Fang Yuan has been with you for 8 whole years. What do you expect him to do?" Bai Ningbing lowered her eyes for a while, then said in a low voice, "I've arranged everything. Fang Yuan will never know that I am carrying He Qiang's child. As for the future after these 8 years, I've grown used to his presence and I will marry him." Fang Yuan didn't listen to the rest. As a nurse walked toward the ward, Fang Yuan lowered his head and pretended that he had just returned. The two in the ward looked at each other and immediately stopped talking. On the way home, Bai Ningbin and Fang Yuan discussed the wedding details, but Fang Yuan didn't hear a single word. He looked at the receding skyscrapers outside the window and felt a chill. He was 15 when he first met Bai Ningbin at a gathering of parents and partners. At that time, the young girl's cold and noble appearance stayed etched in his mind. At 16, he participated in a racing competition as Cold Wind and saved Bai Ningbin's life, starting a long secret crush. At 20, the Shen daughter pursued him. That same year, Bai Ningbing attended his friend's party. That night, she took the initiative to add his WeChat. He was happy all night long. It was also that year that he, knowing Bai Ningbin has a childhood sweetheart, He Qiang, and thinking carefully now that sweetheart relationship was full of lies from the start. Over 6 months ago, he had so much blood drawn at the hospital. Bai Ningbin said it was for a checkup, but she lied to give He Qiang a bone marrow transplant. The Bentley slowly drove into the villa area. Midnight, Bai Ningbin's phone rang. Fang Yuan glanced at the caller ID, "Beloved He Qiang." Bai Ningbin swiped to hang up, her fair fingers clearing the screen. Not long after, she got up and left in a hurry. Fang Yuan walked to the window. In the endless night, that Bentley gradually drove away. Fang Yuan dialed his mother's number. "Mom, I've thought it over. I agreed to the marriage alliance with the Shen family. 7 days from now, as soon as I land, I'll register the marriage with her." Mother Fang guessed what her son had been through. She comforted him and patiently analyzed the situation. "Have you really thought it over, Fang Yuan? The current Fang family isn't what it used to be. This marriage is no joke." The Shen family and the Bai family, though thousands of miles apart, have been enemies for generations. Once you marry into the Shen family, they might require you to completely break off all ties with the Bai family. On the other end of the phone, Fang Yuan's dark eyes lowered. 6 years ago, the Fang family moved their company abroad and settled there. But soon after moving abroad, the Fang family faced an economic crisis. The Shen family, also abroad, repeatedly expressed their desire for a marriage alliance, but his parents knew he liked Bai Ningbin and never thought of sacrificing his marriage to support the company. Henceforth, he didn't want any more contact with Bai Ningbin. Agreeing to the Shen family was the best choice. "Mom, I've thought it over. I never want to see Bai Ningbin again in this life." On the other side of the phone, Mother Fang was silent for a few seconds and said, "Okay, tomorrow. Your father and I will go to the Shen family to discuss the marriage." Fang Yuan didn't sleep all night. The next morning, Bai Ningbin didn't return, only sending a message. "Fang Yuan, there's a problem at the company. I'm on a business trip for 3 days." Fang Yuan didn't reply and booked a ticket for 7 days later. He started packing his belongings. These past years, he had been living with Bai Ningbin and had many things. Since the Fang family's business was down, he listed whatever he could sell online. In the evening, a social media app popped up a message from a stranger. Hi Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan clicked it. The profile picture was an IVF success report. The nickname was Happy He Kiang. This account was a newly created private one. He didn't dare publicize Bai Ningbin's pregnancy, so the only person he followed was Fang Yuan. A minute later, He Kiang shared his latest Douyin post. It was a photo of him accompanying Bai Ningbin for a prenatal checkup. Caption: becoming a mother for the first time, she's a bit excited. Fang Yuan saw through his petty scheme, liked it, and commented, after recovering using my bone marrow, you've come to provoke me. He Kiang, do human blood buns taste good? The next day, Fang Yuan went to say goodbye to his friends and gave his watches and limited edition sneakers to those who wanted them. On the way home, he received the second Douyin from He Kiang. It was more photos, this time of him accompanying Bai Ningbin. To choose maternity clothes, pink, white, every style was beautiful. Fang Yuan checked the previous video. He Kiang had replied to his comment. His tone was arrogant. It's not like I begged you to donate bone marrow. Ningbin was worried about me and forced me to accept it. Fang Yuan sneered and replied with a good. On the third day, Fang Yuan sold all the luxury bags, bracelets, and high heels he had given Bai Ningbin over the years. He Kiang posted again. This time he accompanied Bai Ningbin to book an expensive confinement center with an arrogant caption in one sentence. I got my CEO girlfriend pregnant with my child. I don't have to worry about the pregnancy or birth at all. Which man is luckier than me? That afternoon, Bai Ningbin finally returned. She looked at the somewhat empty bedroom and an extra black suitcase, her brows furrowed. Why is the house so empty? The things you gave me. My bags are gone. Why did you suddenly buy a suitcase for no reason? Fang Yuan casually made an excuse. Those bags were outdated, so I threw them away. I wanted to travel recently but decided against it. Bai Ningbin thought he was angry because she hadn't accompanied him for 3 days. She took out a pre-prepared purchase contract for a limited edition Lamborghini supercar. I've been busy lately, so I ordered a supercar for you. I'll go with you to pick it up later. Fang Yuan looked down at the purchase contract. Like other men, he loved sports cars. This Lamborghini was one he had been interested in recently. The diamond black customized by Bai Ningbin was his favorite color. Over the past 8 years, Bai Ningbin had remembered his preferences clearly, if not for hearing her conversation with Bai Heiyu at the hospital room door, he would have been very moved. Thank you. Fang Yuan set the purchase contract aside. Bai Ningbin frowned and leaned her head into his arms. Are you still angry? There's a gathering tonight. I'll take you out to relax. Fang Yuan was about to refuse, but Bai Ningbin had already pulled him by the hand to the Bentley. Not long after they started driving, Bai Ningbin's phone rang. It was He Kiang. Fang Yuan didn't hear clearly what was said, only vaguely heard a sentence. Ningbin, save me. Bai Ningbin's face tightened as she tapped the screen, finding He Kiang's real-time location from some app. She quickly turned the car around. We're not going to the party anymore. He Kiang has been kidnapped. I have to go save him. Bai Ningbin drove extremely fast, running over a dozen red lights. 20 minutes later, Bai Ningbin confirmed He Kiang was in the black car ahead. She narrowed her eyes and slammed the accelerator. With a loud crash, the rear of the black car was instantly crushed. At the same time, the passenger side of the Bentley was hit hard by another group of He Kiang's kidnappers. Fang Yuan couldn't dodge, and his head immediately began to bleed. Bright red blood slid from the top of his head to his cheek. He was in so much pain that he couldn't speak for a long time. Despite such a severe collision on the passenger side, Bai Ningbin didn't even spare a glance at Fang Yuan. She stared intently at He Kiang in the black car. After 3 consecutive collisions, the black car was forced to stop, and the people inside quickly fled into an accomplice's car. Bai Ningbin pushed open the car door and looked at He Kiang in the back seat. He Kiang, are you terrified? Are you hurt anywhere? He Kiang suddenly hugged Bai Ningbin, and then lowered his head to show his swollen face, his voice raspy. It's my father's business rivals. They just punched me. It's nothing serious. He has always been protected by me in secret. How could he have experienced such a thing? Ningbin, it's all your fault for coming so late. I was so scared I would never see you again. Don't be afraid. It's my fault. I'll take you for a full body checkup now. Bai Ningbin helped He Kiang into the back seat of the Bentley. It only took her 5 minutes to drive to the hospital. After getting out, she helped He Kiang toward the ER. Throughout the entire process, she didn't notice Fang Yuan in the passenger seat, his eyes red and the blood on his head terrifying. Fang Yuan watched their departing figures. Enduring the pain, he pushed open the car door and walked tremblingly toward the hospital entrance. In the evening, heavy rain began to fall. Fang Yuan didn't use his hands to block the rain, letting it soak his wound. The nurse at the triage desk gasped when she saw Fang Yuan. She urgently treated his wound and led him to get an examination. An hour later, Fang Yuan, his body weak, finished the tests. Only then did he have time to pick up his phone. The screen showed over a dozen missed calls, all from Bai Ningbin. Without hesitation, he turned off the phone. Thinking that he needed an IV drip until late at night, Fang Yuan simply asked the nurse for a hospital room. In a daze, he recalled the past. Ever since Bai Ningbin became disabled, he had attended various business dinners in her place. Once, at a dinner table, the presidents of 2 companies flipped the table due to a disagreement. The dishes on the table instantly smashed on the floor, and the broken ceramic bounced onto his wrist. When Bai Ningbin found out, she rushed over, immediately had her assistant cut off all business with those 2 companies, and anxiously took him to the hospital to clean the wound. wound. He had felt that this was perhaps it's making a mountain out of a molehill. Bai Ningbin gently comforted him. Fang Yuan, you are the most important man in my heart. I don't want to see any wounds on you. Not even a tiny scratch. Historically, men have pampered women, but she just wanted to protect him. Now, even though he was covered in blood, she treated him with indifference for the sake of another man. She promised not to let him get hurt, yet she risked her life to donate bone marrow for others and even had a child. She secretly did it with someone else behind his back. Before sleeping, Fang Yuan saw that He Qiang had shared a new video on Douyin of Bai Ningbin. Willing to half-kneel to wash He Qiang's feet just to coax him to sleep, Fang Yuan watched it several times, his chest tightening. He couldn't sleep. All night the next morning, Fang Yuan reluctantly returned. Uncle Chen looked grim. Sir, the madam is waiting by the pool. She's in a bad mood. Fang Yuan walked toward the pool and saw Bai Ningbin coaxing He Qiang. He Qiang's head was lowered and eyes were red, as if he had suffered a great grievance. Seeing Fang Yuan finally return, the anger on Bai Ningbin's face could no longer be hidden. Did you intentionally reveal He Qiang's whereabouts to his father's enemies? Fang Yuan's footsteps paused. He looked at He Qiang on the sofa. The man tilted his head and smirked maliciously. Fang Yuan understood instantly. Bai Ningbin's face was dark as she threw a stack of photos in front of Fang Yuan. Then how do you explain these photos of you contacting He Qiang's enemies? Explain them. Fang Yuan glanced at the photos on the table, his face turning cold. These were photos of him selling his watch to a buyer at a cafe a few days ago. No wonder that man was so straightforward and didn't haggle, only insisting on meeting at the cafe. Seeing Fang Yuan remain silent, Bai Ningbin thought he was admitting it. Her face was terrifyingly cold. Did I not tell you that no matter what rumors are spread about me and He Qiang, we are innocent? I have always treated He Qiang as brother. He is a truly kind person. We've been together for 8 years. You should know in your heart how I've treated you during these years. Moreover, I even took the initiative to propose to you a few days ago. How can you still hurt and harass him like this? Does that make sense? Listening to her words, Fang Yuan's heart felt a needle-like pain. During their 8 years together, for 5 years she was disabled and he took care of her. In those 5 years, she was gloomy and broken. All of this happened because she, to satisfy He Qiang's vanity, had risked her life in a race. Yet she had completely forgotten the pain caused by He Qiang. During those 5 years, for the sake of her recovery, he studied rehabilitation and massaged her legs every day without fail. When she was depressed, he even consulted the best psychiatrist in the early morning to learn how to soothe her emotions. She didn't remember a single thing he had sacrificed. It was truly ironic. Fang Yuan wanted to ask, if she only treats him as a brother, why is she doing IVF with him now? Yes, how you've treated me and him over these 8 years. I've only just realized it these past few days. Bai Ningbin's expression tightened. What are you on about? Fang Yuan pointed to the bandage on his head. He smiled self-deprecatingly. He was kidnapped yesterday and I have 5 stitches. Am I stupid enough to injure myself just to hurt him? Even though Fang Yuan pointed out the fact that he was injured, Bai Ningbin was entirely focused on He Qiang and she still didn't trust him. Fang Yuan looked at her. My tight jawline felt relieved that I would be leaving in 3 days. Bai Ningbin, since you're certain I did it, tell me, how do you want to resolve this? I am not doubting you, but He Qiang and I have known each other for 16 years and 7 months. He has never lied. After a pause, Bai Ningbin frowned deeply, intending to settle the matter. Fang Yuan, you've made He Qiang upset, so you're responsible for cheering him up. At this moment, He Qiang, with red-rimmed eyes, threw the ring on his hand into the pool and exclaimed, Ningbin, the ring you gave me accidentally fell into the pool. Saying this, He Qiang looked at Fang Yuan, his thin lips curling up provocatively as he thought, how about this? No need to coax me. If you pick up the ring, I will forgive you for all the harm you've done to me. It was early winter and the pool water was bone-chillingly cold. The wound on Fang Yuan's head had not yet healed. He looked down at the seated Bai Ningbin. The woman kept her brows lowered, hiding her eyes, while her long fingers tapped lightly on the table. It felt as if his heart was being pricked by countless needles, causing a dense, sharp pain. He suddenly remembered that 6 months after Bai Ningbin was diagnosed with a disability, old Master Bai came to the hospital. Upon learning there was little hope for her recovery, the old master began selecting other heirs. That night, Bai Ningbin disappeared from the ward. When Fang Yuan found her, he found her pushing her wheelchair into the surging sea, letting the cold seawater reach her chest. Fang Yuan was terrified and hurriedly tried to persuade her, but he was pushed away. Stop pretending to care about me. You're just my boyfriend, not my husband. If you really want to care, the wind and waves are strong right now. You swim a lap and I'll listen to you from now on. Fang Yuan stared at her blankly. In fact, he really wanted to say that he wasn't pretending. He truly wanted to be her husband. So, even though he was a non-swimmer, he didn't hesitate to turn and plunge into the sea. The waves were huge and he was quickly swept away, losing consciousness. When he opened his eyes, he met Bai Ningbin's worried, watery eyes. The woman's complexion was pale and her face was tight. Why didn't you tell me you can't swim? Are you crazy? You don't know how to swim. Yet you dared to jump into the sea. He looked up at her, his voice hoarse. Bai Ningbin, even if your legs never get better, I still want to marry you. Really like you even more than you imagine. From then on, Bai Ningbin never took him to the seaside, and even the family pool was forbidden from being filled. It was because he felt it was strange for the pool to be empty that Bai Ningbin compromised and let the servants fill and drain it daily. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan curled his lips, his handsome face expressionless. You want me to pick up the ring, right? Fine, I'll I'll go get it. Saying this, without even taking off his coat, Fang Yuan turned and jumped into the pool. The icy water soaked his skin, making his whole body shudder. Fang Yuan slowly sank, overwhelmed by boundless fear, but he gritted his teeth and refused to call for help. Soon, a streak of red blood began to spread in the pool. The butler on the side exclaimed, "Oh my god, sir's head is bleeding." Bai Ningbin took off her coat, jumped into the pool, and pulled Fang Yuan out, roaring, "Enough! Why are you so stubborn? Couldn't you have just turned around and left?" Fang Yuan looked up at the diamond ring at the bottom of the pool and said coldly, "Didn't you want me to make him happy? Your man should be quite satisfied with me like this, right?" Bai Ningbin's brow furrowed, and her exquisite face was now frighteningly gloomy. "How many times have I told you that I really only treat He Qiang as a brother? The He family is not insignificant either. If outsiders found out about what you've done, what would we do? Public opinion isn't so kind these days. I told you to coax him and calm him down. Isn't everything I do for your own good?" Bai Ningbin's tone was affectionate, as if everything was for his sake. But listening to this, Fang Yuan was driven to an angry laugh. "She says the public opinion is bad." Back then, the dignified heir of the Bai family went racing because of He Qiang, which resulted in He Qiang being arrogant and domineering, a school bully who preyed on the weak. The He family's reputation was terrible, and all these years they've only survived by leaning on the great tree that is Bai Ningbin. Everything had gone smoothly, even when they were doing the test tube baby back then, hadn't it been kept strictly hidden by him. Now, even if the kidnapping was truly his own doing, Bai Ningbin actually told him that public opinion was hard to suppress. In the end, he was far less important in Bai Ningbin's heart than He Qiang. Fang Yuan did not want to say another word to Bai Ningbin. He took off his soaked black coat and strode toward the living room. After a few steps, perhaps due to excessive blood loss from his head, he suddenly fainted. Bai Ningbin. Just as she was about to support Fang Yuan, He Qiang suddenly crouched on the ground, the corners of his eyes slightly reddening. "Ningbin, my stomach hurts so much. Help me upstairs to lie down for a bit." Bai Ningbin's steps paused. She withdrew her hand that was about to support Fang Yuan and turned to help He Qiang up. She let Fang Yuan's head hit the ground hard and looked at the butler only, leaving a single sentence, "Uncle Chen, send the gentleman to the hospital." When Fang Yuan woke up, he met a pair of worried eyes. Seeing him wake up, Bai Ningbin hurried to call the doctor. Once it was confirmed he was fine, she breathed a sigh of relief. Fang Yuan's sharp eyes noticed an extra string of Buddhist beads on his left hand, seemingly the one Bai Ningbin always wore. The assistant smiled on the side and said, "Sir, you hadn't woken up, and President Bai was so worried she gave you the beads she's worn for over 10 years. Last night she even vowed before the Buddha that as long as you woke up safely, she would only eat vegetarian food and no meat for the rest of her life, and would never touch alcohol again." Fang Yuan frowned, somewhat disdainfully took off the beads from his wrist and handed them to Bai Ningbin. "There's no need to change your habits for me." Bai Ningbin didn't take them. She put the beads back on Fang Yuan's hand and said softly, "Fang Yuan, back during the time I was disabled, didn't you also make a similar vow?" Fang Yuan's thick brows furrowed. In the second year of Bai Ningbin's disability, he heard that Lingxuan Temple was very cold in the early morning, so he took Bai Ningbin there overnight to make a wish. That day he made a vow before the Buddha, "I am willing to use everything I have in exchange for Bai Ningbin's health." And Bai Ningbin also made a wish before the Buddha to marry him as his bride 5 years later. At that time, as he looked at the wish note handwritten by Bai Ningbin, his eyes turned red. Bai Ningbin threw herself into his arms and held him for a long time. Those were the few days when her eyes were only on him. Now that He Qiang has returned to the country, her gaze no longer focuses on him. Fang Yuan looked at Bai Ningbin's small face that was seeking praise, his dark eyes lowered slightly, feeling a bit tired. When he woke up again, it was already afternoon. Fang Yuan got up to ask the doctor when he could be discharged. Before he could push the door open, he heard the conversation between Bai Ningbin and Bai Heiyu coming from the corridor. "When do you plan to set the wedding date for you and Fang Yuan?" Bai Heiyu's puzzled voice sounded. Bai Ningbin's watery eyes lowered slightly. As she said faintly, "I mentioned it to him last time. I plan to hold the wedding at the end of the month." Bai Heiyu nodded and instructed, "This wedding must be grand. When you set the dowry, it can only be more, not less. Fang Yuan has already donated bone marrow to your childhood sweetheart. We cannot mistreat him in terms of the dowry." For some reason, Bai Heiyu's tone changed. "Coincidentally, you're getting married this month. I heard that our rival, the Shen family, is also getting married recently. That groom is also named Fang Yuan." Hearing this, Fang Yuan hurriedly pushed the door open. He coughed twice and the two instantly stopped talking. That night, the doctor announced he could be discharged. After returning home, Fang Yuan received a friend request. The other party sent 3 words, "Shen Yaochu." Fang Yuan blinked, thinking it might be the one he was marrying. He clicked to accept. Just after it was accepted, the other party sent a dowry list, a notebook filled with a dense list of dowry names. Fang Yuan glanced at it briefly and felt it was too many to count. Then Shen Yaochu sent 2 more messages. "This is my dowry, see if you're satisfied. I heard from Lin Yi that your flight is the day after tomorrow. You'll arrive at the airport on the morning of the day after that. Lin Yi and I will go pick you up then." Fang Yuan pondered for a few seconds and replied, "The items are too many, you can reduce them appropriately." The other party didn't reply. All night, Bai Ningbin tried to find topics to talk to Fang Yuan about, but he remained disinterested. Bai Ningbin thought he was still angry about the previous matter. To please Fang Yuan, she had her assistant prepare a pre-wedding bachelor party the next day. Soon, everyone in the circle knew this this was Bai Ningbin's pre-wedding party. Many people came that night. As soon as Fang Yuan arrived, Bai Ningbing took his hand and brought out 2 car purchase contracts. She first handed a purchase contract to Fang Yuan. William, I felt that last supercar didn't suit you. In the past 2 days, I ordered a new supercar for you. Pausing, she handed the original Lamborghini purchase contract to the handsomely dressed He Qiang nearby and said gently, He Qiang, this car was originally for your brother-in-law. Now that he has a new car, I'll give this one to you. It's just a bit unfair to you. He Qiang joyfully took the purchase contract, the smile on his face almost impossible to hide. It's okay, today the brother-in-law is the most important, although he said that anyone could see that the supercar Bai Ningbing gave He Qiang was a national limited edition, while the new supercar she bought for Fang Yuan was just an ordinary, slightly expensive sports car. Guests nearby couldn't help but whisper, is the man Ningbing marrying really Fang Yuan? This is clearly his pre-wedding bachelor party. So why is she giving He Qiang gifts? All those excuses were just to give that limited edition supercar to He Qiang, who doesn't know that Fang Yuan loves cars like life. Isn't He Qiang's move just to disgust him? SHH, I heard He Qiang is great at racing. I have inside info that he is the famous racer Ling Feng. Ningbing liked him at first because Ling Feng saved her life on the racetrack. Fang Yuan sat in the corner, quietly listening to everyone's discussion. He frowned slightly. Wasn't Ling Feng himself? Before Fang Yuan could think further, many people around had analyzed the situation and walked up to He Qiang with wine glasses to flatter him. He Qiang, you look so handsome in this white suit. It makes you look like a real prince. I heard you're great at racing. You're handsome and talented, a perfect match for Ningbing. More and more people flattered He Qiang, forgetting that Fang Yuan was the main character. An hour later, the atmosphere became lively as everyone started singing and playing games. Bai Ningbing stayed close to He Qiang, her gaze always following him. Halfway through, He Qiang went out to take a call and returned with a gloomy face. Bai Ningbing noticed his unhappiness and patiently lowered her voice. Are you angry? Don't drink wine. Your health hasn't been good lately. I'll drink with you when you're better. He Qiang still wouldn't let go of the wine glass. Bai Ningbing sighed and took an unlimited black card from her wallet and handed it to him. This black card quickly caused a sensation. Could it be that Ningbing still hasn't forgotten He Qiang? They say no matter how perfect the current partner is, they can't beat a childhood friend. It turns out it's true. Amidst the discussion, Fang Yuan sat quietly. He looked down at his phone as if the surrounding noise had nothing to do with him. He Qiang looked around, his gaze landing on Fang Yuan in the corner. He walked over with a smug face. Today is your and Ningbing's pre-wedding party, but I've stolen the spotlight. Everyone is flattering and pleasing me. You must be very upset, right? But even if you are, you can only endure it. After all, even if you stayed with Ningbing through her toughest 5 years. So what? As long as I appear before Ningbing, the person she loves most is still me. Fang Yuan knew He Qiang wanted to make him angry, but since the day he was discharged, he would no longer be angry or sad about their affairs. Seeing that he ignored him, He Qiang, a touch of coldness rose in his eyes as his gaze fell on the men's watch on Fang Yuan's wrist, a flicker of jealousy flashing in his eyes, and suddenly, he grabbed it into his hand. Are you crazy? What do you want to do? Fang Yuan raised his hand to grab it back, but He Qiang exerted force secretly, rubbing the men's watch while jealousy and resentment flashed in his eyes. I heard. This is a gift from Ningbing's father to you as his future son-in-law. Fang Yuan looked at him coldly. Just as he was about to speak, he saw He Qiang suddenly shove the watch into his own mouth, forcefully tearing the corner of his mouth, causing a trail of blood to drip down. Brother-in-law, I just thought the watch Uncle Bai gave you was nice. Why did you suddenly shove it into my mouth? It hurts so much. Before Fang Yuan could react, a black figure flashed by and he was pushed hard. There was water on the floor and Fang Yuan's foot slipped, causing him to crash into a table with a giant celebration cake. The wound on his head split open again, seeping blood and sweat. The cake slid onto him, sticky and messy. His eyes turned red from the pain as he looked up at Bai Ningbing, who didn't even look at him, worriedly taking a handkerchief to wipe the blood from He Qiang's mouth, her watery eyes showing deep distress. Fang Yuan finally understood what kind of play He Qiang was acting out. He wiped the sticky cream off his face, picked up the men's watch from the floor and handed it to He Qiang. Just as Bai Ningbing thought he was trying to provoke He Qiang and was about to flare up, Fang Yuan grabbed He Qiang's wrist and put the watch on him. Uncle Bai gave it to me, but you like it a lot, right? Then I'll give it to you. He Qiang looked up in shock, even forgetting to act pitiful. Bai Ningbing frowned, unable to understand what Fang Yuan was doing. This is the birthday gift my father gave you. Only the Bai family's future son-in-law can wear it. Fang Yuan stood up and said coldly, it's dirty, I don't want it. After saying that, he turned around and limped away regardless of their expressions. Bai Ningbing's face turned slightly cold as she watched Fang Yuan's indifferent back. Late at night, Bai Ningbing finally returned. After washing up, she crawled into bed and sighed while looking at Fang Yuan's back. Don't be angry and stop targeting He Qiang. He respects and likes you, his brother-in-law, very much. He Qiang said he wants to take the initiative to get along with you, so he'll stay here for a few days. Don't target him anymore recently. Fang Yuan closed his eyes and didn't reply, simply asking calmly, if He Qiang wasn't Ling Feng, would you still be so good to him? Bai Ningbing took Fang Yuan's hand and said gently, he is my brother. I'm good to him because he is He Qiang. It has nothing to do with whether he is Ling Feng. I see. Fang Yuan lowered his eyes and gave a faint response. Anyway, there was only one day left. Fang Yuan had just woken up and was about to have breakfast breakfast, but after taking a few steps, he was knocked down by a heavy vase. With a thud, he felt his skull crack instantly and a stream of blood flowed from his head. He curled up on the ground in pain. Through his blurred vision, he saw He slowly walking down from the second floor with a beaming smile. "Oh my, I just wanted to show you the freshly arranged flowers, but my hand slipped and hit your head. What should I do? You're covered in blood. It looks quite terrifying. Should I call an ambulance for you? But I'm too nervous to pick up my phone. You won't blame me, right, brother-in-law? Just bear with it." Fang Yuan fainted from the pain before he could finish listening. Later, a servant saw him and was shocked, hurriedly sending Fang Yuan to the hospital. When he woke up, it was already noon. Fang Yuan's head had been given 30 stitches, which looked terrifying. The doctor said he had a mild concussion accompanied by temporary blindness in his right eye. Bai Ningbing stood by the bed, leaning over to ask if it hurt, and helped him up with a distressed look. Feeding him water, his behavior was caring. "Quickly, help me, help me, help me." When he ate spicy food and the pain was severe, Bai Ningbing would coax him all day and move her work home to accompany him. Now, things have changed. Noticing that Fang Yuan on the hospital bed seemed to be crying, her heart ached terribly. Just as she was about to comfort him, a nurse hurried in. "President Bai this morning. The man who came with you suddenly fainted. Do you want to go take a look?" Hearing He had fainted, Bai Ningbing ignored Fang Yuan and turned to walk out to the corridor. Soon the ward was quiet again, leaving Fang Yuan alone. 10 minutes later, his phone vibrated with a text from He. "Even if your head has 30 stitches and your eye is blind, so what? I don't have to say a word and she immediately runs to find me. Fang Yuan, I disappeared for a few years and came back, said I wanted a baby and she agreed. How could she not love me?" Soon after, Fang Yuan received another video from He. In the video, Bai Ningbing coaxed He with red eyes. "Don't blame yourself. I said I would always protect you. Fang Yuan's head is only injured. It's not a big problem. He won't tell anyone you hit him. Your mood has been bad lately. Don't worry about these small matters." Fang Yuan finished watching the video, his fingers dug deep into his palms. He forced himself up and left the hospital alone. With 6 hours left until his departure, Fang Yuan went to Lingshuan Temple to cut down the wishing slip he wrote to marry Bai Ningbing. In the cold temple wind, the 2 slips Bai Ningbing wrote years ago blew into Fang Yuan's hands. He picked them up and glanced at them. The first, "Marry Fang Yuan as a bride in 5 years." The second wishing slip, "As long as you return, no matter when, I will choose you." Fang Yuan sneered, "Congratulations, Bai Ningbing, you finally got what you wanted." Returning to the villa, He messages kept coming. He only glanced at them before sitting at the desk and slowly writing a farewell letter, including a photo of the cold wind. Then he picked up his suitcase and headed downstairs. Putting the ring from Bai Ningbing's proposal into a gray velvet box, he handed it to the housekeeper. "When Bai Ningbing returns, help me give this to her and tell her there is a letter left for her on the desk." The housekeeper saw Fang Yuan removing his engagement ring and vaguely guessed something. He said in shock, "Sir, what is this? Thank you for taking care of me, Uncle Chen. See you again if fate allows." Fang Yuan waved his hand and took a taxi to the airport. An hour later, at the airport gate, his brother Gu Yan bid him a reluctant farewell. "Fang Yuan, don't come back. Stay well abroad and never talk to that trash Bai Ningbing again." With red eyes, he embraced Gu Yan and looked at the city at dawn. "Goodbye, Le Cheng. Never see you again, Bai Ningbing." The next day, Bai Ningbing stayed in He ward, coaxing him to eat. Although Fang Yuan's room was just 1 floor below, she did not visit him once. At dusk, He test results came out showing he was unharmed. Bai Ningbing was relieved and took him home, patiently coaxing him to sleep. The housekeeper saw her coming downstairs and handed over the box. "Sir came back yesterday and asked me to give this to you." Bai Ningbing took the box with a sour expression. "He's discharged. I told him to stay in the hospital. Why come home? Is he making a scene again, didn't I? Tell him He and I are innocent. I only see him as a brother." The box opened and the engagement ring appeared before her. She was slightly stunned. The housekeeper whispered a reminder. "The master also said he left a letter for you in the second-floor study." Bai Ningbing felt an inexplicable restlessness. She hurried upstairs to the study. As expected, there was a letter on the desk. When the words "farewell letter" caught Bai Ningbing's eyes, she had a bad premonition. After reading every word, Bai Ningbing's mind exploded with a bang, and a wave of unprecedented panic surged in her heart. It was over. That day, Bai Heiyu's conversation with her at the hospital was all heard by Fang Yuan. Her carefully woven lies were exposed. At a loss, Bai Ningbing wanted to call Fang Yuan when her peripheral vision suddenly caught a photo on the desk. In it, a sunny and handsome boy in a red racing suit sat boldly in a racing car. He took off his mask, made a peace sign with his right hand, and smiled wildly at the camera. Wait, this face. So Fang Yuan was the one who saved her life on the track, the one she always wanted to repay. Would you? Impossible. Bai Ningbing's left hand trembled as she dialed Fang Yuan's number. A cold voice soon came from the receiver. "The mobile number you dialed has been cancelled." Not giving up, Bai Ningbing sent a message to Fang Yuan's WeChat, but the account also showed as cancelled. She tried every way to contact Fang Yuan, but everything ended in failure. Bai Ningbing had no choice but to call Fang Yuan's friend Lao Yang. After being hung up on 3 times, the call finally went through. On the other end, Lao Yang was sitting in the living room watching TV. Disturbed multiple times, his tone was very unpleasant. "President Bai, what can I do for you?" Bai Ningbing ignored his sarcasm and asked directly, "Is Fang Yuan Wuju?" Lao Yang sneered and mocked. "Bai Ningbing, don't tell me you only just found out that Fang Yuan is. Wuju, Bai Ningbing frowned. He never told me these things. Lao Yang was almost laughed to anger. All these years, all your attention was on He Qiang. And have you ever truly cared about Fang Yuan? Bai Ningbing looked at the disconnected phone, her watery eyes full of panic. 12 years ago, He Qiang took the initiative to confess to her, claiming he was the Wuju she was looking for. When He Qiang described the details of the rescue on the track that day, plus the fact they had known each other since childhood, she naturally believed him, and since she had known Fang Yuan, although she knew he loved sports cars, she never noticed that he could actually race. Thinking carefully, she had been disabled for 5 years. On the day the doctor announced her legs were healed, she slowly stood up, hugged Fang Yuan, and said affectionately, "Fang Yuan, thank you for saving my life." At that time, Fang Yuan gave her a gentle smile and said, "Including this time, I have saved your life twice in total." She wanted to ask for details then, but He Qiang's call interrupted her thoughts. When Bai Ningbing thought about being deceived for 12 whole years, she was so angry her eyes almost split. She strode toward the guest bedroom and shook the sleeping He Qiang awake. In He Qiang's dazed gaze, Bai Ningbing threw the photo of Wuju in his face and said gloomily, "He Qiang, you actually dared to lie to me." A second ago, He Qiang was still bleary-eyed. Seeing the furious Bai Ningbing, he faintly guessed something and frantically picked up the photos scattered on the bed. After a moment of panic, deep jealousy welled up in his dark eyes. Impossible! How could a man like Fang Yuan be the great god Wuju? Back then, although Wuju was only 16, he was already a top-tier figure among the midnight racers. Bai Ningbing leaned close to He Qiang, her watery eyes burning with a raging fire. "I've confirmed it. Fang Yuan is Wuju and Wuju is Fang Yuan. He Qiang, you have deceived me so miserably." Back then at the racetrack, Wuju was in the same race as her. That day, her racing car was sabotaged by business rivals and caught fire. Wuju, who was supposed to take first place, gave up the $1 million prize, turned around, and risked his life to save her. After Wuju rescued her, he arrogantly tilted his chin at her and said, "Hey, I saved you, remember to repay me." She remembered this sentence of repayment for 12 whole years, but who would have thought she would repay the wrong person? Thinking of this, Bai Ningbing pushed He Qiang away with a cold face and coldly gave an eviction notice. "He Qiang, move back to the He family house right now." Bai Ningbing ignored He Qiang's pleas and had the butler kick him out. Then, with a gloomy face, she called her assistant. On the phone, her voice was icy. "Investigate He Qiang's kidnapping and that day's gathering." At an airport in Country Li, after the plane landed, Fang Yuan took out hat and put it on to cover the medical bandages on his head. At the exit, Fang's father and mother had been waiting for a long time. Standing beside them was a stranger wearing a light blue dress, a woman with an exquisite and outstanding appearance. Not having seen her son for a long time, Mother Fang's kind face was filled with uncontrollable joy. "Come, Fang Yuan. Let me introduce you. This is Shen Yaochu." Fang Yuan carefully sized up his fiancée. The woman's skin was fair and delicate, and the warm light shining on her outline. Her exquisite facial features, her pink lips were pressed tight, and a faint smile played at the corners of her mouth, but she somehow gave a sense of distance. "Hello, I am Fang Yuan." Fang Yuan spoke softly. Shen Yaochu's eyes flickered slightly. She looked him over, her gaze lingering on the hat on his head for a while before saying, "Shen Yaochu, your fiancé." An hour later, the black sedan slowly drove to the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Shen's father and mother had been waiting at the entrance for a long time. When Mother Shen saw Fang Yuan, she couldn't hide her smile. The son-in-law her daughter chose was tall, handsome, resolute, had an outstanding temperament, and was very polite. One look and it was clear he was well-bred from a young age. The more Mother Shen looked, the more satisfied she became. So she spoke generously. "I've had my secretary transfer some of the Shen family's shares into your name, Fang Yuan. This is a meeting gift from me and Yaochu's father." Mother Shen's tone was very calm when she said this, as if she were saying she had transferred 10,000 yuan. But Fang Yuan knew the value of the Shen family's shares. Currently, the Shen family is developing rapidly and is a leader in the business world. Just as Fang Yuan was about to refuse, Shen Yaochu's pink lips parted slightly and she said softly, "It's a gift from my parents, please accept it." "Thank you, uncle and auntie." Fang Yuan's eyes reddened slightly, feeling moved. Receiving such a grand gift at their first meeting showed how much the Shen family valued him. Thinking back, Father Bai had once given him a men's watch, but knew clearly that it was in exchange for taking care of the disabled Bai Ningbing for 5 whole years. In recent years, the Fang family has gradually declined. Father Bai and Mother Bai always he wasn't good enough. They had privately stated they hoped Bai Ningbing would marry the eldest son of the Gu family to stabilize their position. Let's go inside to get married," Shen Yaochu reminded him. "Okay." Fang Yuan followed Shen Yaochu into the Civil Affairs Bureau to register. 10 minutes later, the matter was settled. Fang Yuan looked down at the marriage certificate in his hand, lost in thought for a few seconds. Shen Yaochu said from the side, "I bought a villa in the city as our wedding home. I just sent you the address and the gate code. Just now, this villa is part of the dowry, and only your name is on the title deed. Since you just returned, go back to your parents' home for these 3 days to stay. As for the wedding, it will be held in 2 weeks. We will discuss the arrangements later." Meanwhile, at dawn in the Bai Group office, an assistant held an invitation and placed it in front of Bai Ningbing. "President Bai, Mr. He's matter is still under investigation. This is a wedding invitation just sent by the Shen family." "The Shen family?" Bai Ningbing frowned. Shen family rarely sent them invitations. She picked up the invitation and glanced at it. Bride Shen Yaochu, groom Fang Yuan, as Bai Ningbing looked at the groom's name. Her heart panicked a bit. At this time Fang Yuan looked down at his phone. As expected, Shen Yaochu had sent the villa's address and door code. She was far more considerate than he had imagined, even considering having him stay at his parents' house first. Looking at the gentle woman before him, Fang Yuan felt for the first time that this impulsive marriage seemed like a good choice. The two families had lunched together in an exceptionally harmonious atmosphere until they parted ways in the afternoon. In the evening, Fang's parents prepared a table full of dishes. After a long time, the family of three reunited. Father Fang was very happy tonight, drinking a lot and talking a lot. Speaking of which, we have quite a fate with the Shen family. At first, we weren't very familiar with them, but in recent years, they have helped us both openly and secretly. If it hadn't been for the Shen family's help, our Fang family would have collapsed long ago. Fang Yuan was a bit surprised that the Shen family had been helping them for 3 years. Time passed quickly. On the afternoon of the fourth day, Shen Yaochu came to pick up Fang Yuan. He was reluctant to say goodbye to his parents. Mother Fang looked at Shen Yaochu nearby. She patted Fang Yuan's shoulder and whispered, "We can tell Yaochu likes you quite a bit. You should try to get along with her." Fang Yuan lowered his eyes and looked at Shen Yaochu standing by the car. Her expression was very indifferent. How could he feel like Shen Yaochu didn't like him? On the way, it was quiet inside the car and neither of them spoke. They didn't speak until the car stopped in front of the hospital. Fang Yuan tilted his head in confusion and asked, "Are you sick?" Shen Yaochu's gaze fell on the large hat he was wearing. "Aren't you injured? I brought you to the hospital for a checkup before we go home." Fang Yuan was stunned for a moment, feeling warm inside but also curious. "How did you know that I have a head injury?" He had hidden it extremely well for 3 days, even his parents hadn't noticed. Shen Yaochu turned her head, her watery eyes landing on Fang Yuan's handsome face. "I deduced it. That day I went to pick you up at the airport. You were dressed youthfully and handsomely, wearing gray from head to toe. It was clear you were a man with excellent taste, except for this oversized hat. It could cover the entire top of your head, but it clearly didn't match the rest of your outfit. Later, when getting into the car, your head lightly bumped the door. Logically, a light bump shouldn't hurt much, but I noticed you were in so much pain that you gasped for air as if it were unbearable." Fang Yuan's dark eyes widened in disbelief. "Shen Yaochu, you're such a stickler for details." At the private hospital on the top floor, Dr. He had been waiting for a long time. He looked curiously at Fang Yuan following behind Shen Yaochu and couldn't help but complain. "You made me wait at the hospital early in the morning and you only arrived now. Wait, could this be your—" Shen Yaochu abruptly interrupted him. "My husband Fang Yuan." Dr. He understood instantly and shut up. He gave Fang Yuan a full body examination. Under Shen Yaochu's instructions, Dr. He gave Fang Yuan a dressing change for his head, moving as gently as possible. An hour later, the results finally came out. After analyzing them for a long time, he called Shen Yaochu out to the hallway with a solemn expression. "Yaochu, your husband Fang Yuan not only has a head injury, but his eyes also experience temporary blindness. Fortunately, his right eye's vision is gradually recovering. However, from my observation, the wound on Fang Yuan's head doesn't look like it was caused by a single collision, but rather by repeated intentional harm. I asked a friend at the hospital in Lingqian to export his recent medical records and found some anomalies. If Fang Yuan had been hospitalized due to a stomach infection at that time, these medications shouldn't have been used in the early stages. Based on my years of medical experience, I suspect Fang Yuan was deceived into donating bone marrow." A surge of anger flared up in Shen Yaochu's chest. Shen Yaochu picked up her phone and gave a low-voiced order, "Find out what Fang Yuan went through in Lingqian recently." The next morning, Shen Yaochu received a call from her assistant. "President Shen, everything regarding what Mr. Fang experienced in Lingqian has been compiled into a document and sent to you." In the study, Shen Yaochu looked at the document, her face cold. The Shen and Bai families had been enemies for generations. As for the elders' grudges and hatred, she, as a junior, had never participated in them. Since it has now harmed her husband, Fang Yuan, that is another matter. The Bai family wants that batch of goods at the pier recently, outbid them and snatch it away. The assistant on the other end was silent for a few seconds before asking, "President Shen, do you mean to start an all-out war with the Bai family?" In the early morning, He Qiang was forced to move back to the He family. He repeatedly sent messages to Bai Ningbin, pleading for her forgiveness, but Bai Ningbin didn't reply once. He Qiang didn't give up and found the bar Bai Ningbin often visited. After dressing up meticulously, he sat beside her and hugged her. "Ningbin, I missed you." Bai Ningbin turned her head. When she clearly saw it was He Qiang's face, she pulled him off her with extreme disgust. "Get away from me." Bai Ningbin used a lot of force, almost acting with ruthlessness. He Qiang lost his balance and fell heavily to the ground. He tried to reach out to steady himself on the table, but accidentally knocked over the wine bottles. A crashing sound echoed, exceptionally piercing. Everyone around was from the same social circle, and some people he used to look down on began to sneer. When had He Qiang ever suffered such humiliation? With red eyes, he climbed up and left unwillingly. Next morning, Bai Ningbin looked over the information her assistant had compiled. Her face was exceptionally gloomy, and she was so angry her eyes nearly burst. He Qiang was not only not beyond help, but he was also sinister and vicious. After receiving Fang Yuan's bone marrow, he was not only ungrateful but also repeatedly harmed and framed framed Fang Yuan. She couldn't imagine how. Fang Yuan had survived this period. If it were her, she probably would have gone crazy. Bai Ningbin's eyes were ruthless, and the cold aura she emitted was exceptionally dangerous. After an unknown amount of time, she finally calmed down and slowly picked up her phone. She opened He Qiang's chat page and typed with a cold face, "I'm at the villa. Come over now." He Qiang replied almost instantly, his tone revealing excitement. "Ningbin, have you forgiven me? Wait for me, I'm coming over now." Bai Ningbin didn't look at the phone again. She told the servants to fill the pool and then throw in bags of ice cubes. Half an hour later, He Qiang walked into the villa with a smug look. He had clearly dressed up meticulously, wearing a well-tailored white shirt and even applying clean makeup. He knew very well that dressing like this in front of Bai Ningbin would be an absolute killing blow. Just as He Qiang was about to walk up to Bai Ningbin, she swirled her wine glass with her fair fingers and slightly raised her chin. Two bodyguards stepped forward to He Qiang and pinned his shoulders from both sides. "Mr. He, President Bai asked us to take you to the poolside." He Qiang's shoulders were pinned so hard they hurt. When had he ever been treated like this by Bai Ningbin's subordinates? He shouted coldly, "Let me go. What do you want to do? I am your President Bai's future husband." The two bodyguards remained expressionless. They took He Qiang to the poolside and ruthlessly pressed his head into the water. The ice-cold pool water choked He Qiang's nose, making him shiver all over. After gulping down 3 mouthfuls of pool water, his mind actually cleared up. Was Bai Ningbin still angry with him? "Ningbin, didn't you stop being angry since you called me over? I told you last time. I wanted to explain as soon as I returned. I'm not beyond help, but Fang Yuan has been targeting me lately, and I was so angry I forgot to tell you. You saw it. My kidnapping last time was all Fang Yuan's doing, and that day at the party my mouth was even torn." He Qiang's voice trembled and the corners of his eyes turned red. Bai Ningbin expressionlessly placed the wine glass on the table. She walked up to He Qiang and slightly raised her hand. The bodyguards immediately understood and pulled He Qiang up. He Qiang looked up miserably, and just as he joyfully thought Bai Ningbin had softened, she sneered and raised her high heel to stomp fiercely on He Qiang's head. She said gloomily, "Even at this point, you still want to throw dirt on Fang Yuan? He Qiang, I know everything you've done." The woman's voice was cold to the extreme, every word stabbing into He Qiang's heart. He Qiang trembled all over, fear instantly enveloping his body to the point where he forgot to struggle. "No, impossible, Bai. How could Ningbin know about those things he did? Even if she knew, so what? She still had his child in her belly. He was the father of the child in her belly. Bai Ningbin would at most punish him and wouldn't do much to him." Thinking of this, He Qiang regained his confidence. When Bai Ningbin retracted her foot, He Qiang hugged her leg and choked out, "Ningbin, it's all because I love you too much. I only did those things because I wanted a beautiful future with you." Bai Ningbin raised her foot again and used her toe to lift He Qiang's chin. "You shouldn't have provoked and harmed Fang Yuan after receiving his bone marrow. He Qiang, you're so rotten to the core that I feel disgusted looking at you." After a pause, Bai Ningbin kicked He Qiang's face with the tip of her shoe, her face full of indifference. "Don't you like making people pick things up? You haven't picked up the ring you threw last time. Go pick it up now." He Qiang looked at Bai Ningbin in shock, the water from his hair dripping down his face. Onto the floor, he looked extremely pathetic. "Ningbin, I've been with you for over 10 years. Don't you have any old feelings left at all?" Bai Ningbin almost laughed in anger, her tone cold. "Old feelings? If you hadn't pretended to be my savior back then, do you think I'd give you a second look? He Qiang, you ruined my life and my image in Fang Yuan's heart. Do you think I'll forgive you easily? What are you waiting for? Do it." Two bodyguards grabbed He Qiang and threw him into the pool. He Qiang could swim, but the water was so freezing that he soon began to shiver and tremble all over. He gritted his teeth and swam to the edge. Just as his hand touched the pool wall, Bai Ningbin stepped hard on his fingers. He Qiang's face turned pale with pain. He screamed for mercy, but eventually unable to bear it, he fell back into the pool. Soon He Qiang fainted completely. Bai Ningbin narrowed her eyes. Resentment in her heart finally dissipated a little. "Fang Yuan, did you see? I've avenged you. Please come back." Half an hour later, He Qiang was taken to the hospital by the bodyguards. Meanwhile, Bai Ningbin had arranged for a doctor to abort the child today no matter what. As the anesthesia kicked in, Bai Ningbin quickly lost consciousness. Half an hour later, He Qiang learned about the miscarriage. His last bargaining chip was gone, and he began smashing everything in the ward like crazy. Pillows, cups, shoes. The nurse couldn't stop him and had to call Bai Ningbin, who had just finished her procedure. "Miss Bai, if you don't come, the ward will be destroyed." He Qiang didn't think she would come, but she soon appeared. She endured the pain and looked at the messy ward. In a pale He Qiang, she said coldly, "I still have 2 more accounts to settle with you. I was going to wait until you recovered, but it seems your physical condition is quite strong." Bai Ningbin spoke calmly, but fear welled up in He Qiang's eyes. He looked fearfully at the cold woman, lacking the madness he showed 10 minutes ago. "I haven't recovered yet." Bai Ningbin walked slowly to the bedside and lifted He Qiang's chin. "At the party, didn't you tear your own mouth to frame Fang Yuan for stuffing a man's watch into your mouth? Oh, and you hit his head with a vase." Bai Ningbin clapped her hands, and 2 bodyguards brought in a huge box. When opened, it contained 10 vases and a box of men's watches. He Qiang guessed what was coming. His face turned white and he trembled. Next second, he crawled off the bed and knelt before Bai Ningbin, kowtowing repeatedly. "I was wrong. I'll apologize publicly to Fang Yuan. I'll kneel and apologize to him, okay? Ningbin, for the sake of our 10 years together, let me go." "Let you go?" Bai Ningbin looked down at him coldly. It was terrifying. He Qiang, how can a verbal apology be enough? You must experience everything Fang Yuan went through to be qualified to beg for his forgiveness. Bai Ningbin finished speaking. She looked at the two bodyguards. One of them quickly tied He Qiang's hands while the other grabbed a pile of men's watches and stuffed them into He Qiang's mouth. He struggled desperately, but the guard kept stuffing them until his mouth corners were completely torn. 2 minutes later, drip drip blood dripped down his chin onto the floor. He Qiang's eyes were red with pain. Previously, if He Qiang felt even slightly unwell, Bai Ningbin would be extremely heartbroken. Now she sat on the sofa watching him suffer coldly. All right, let's settle the next debt. It's time to throw the vases. Worried the height wasn't enough, she had the guards take He Qiang back to the villa. The box of vases was taken to the second floor, while He Qiang was alone in the hall. The guard picked up a vase and threw it down heavily. It quickly landed on He Qiang's head. Clang! A painful scream echoed through the entire villa. He Qiang's scalp split open instantly, and a thick scent of blood filled the entire villa. Bai Ningbin didn't even give him a single look. Finally, after 10 vases hit his head, He Qiang completely lost consciousness. Bai Ningbin unhurriedly looked up, her watery eyes vicious. Send him back to the He family. Just after he was sent away, Bai Heiyu arrived at the villa and saw her cold face. He said, "There's bad news. You should be prepared. Fang Yuan likely won't return. I heard he's entering a marriage alliance with the Shen family's eldest daughter, Shen Yaochu. The man she's marrying is your ex-boyfriend Fang Yuan." Bai Ningbin's eyes turned icy as she shouted, "Impossible." Seeing her disbelief, Bai Heiyu showed her a paparazzi photo of Shen Yaochu and Fang Yuan having lunch. Shen Yaochu was considerately wiping the oil from Fang Yuan's face with a handkerchief. "Is he there? I'll book a flight to find him right now." Bai Heiyu stopped her. "Lately, you've been so focused on finding him that you haven't noticed business. The Shen family snatched a dock shipment at a high price as a warning to you. Bai Ningbin, have you thought it through? Are you sure you want to declare war on the Shen family for Fang Yuan?" She lowered her head in pain. After a while, she said hoarsely, "Brother, without him I'll go crazy." Bai Heiyu sighed. Meanwhile, Fang Yuan began taking over his family's business. For the first few days, he was swamped with work, but being smart and having Shen Yaochu's guidance, he soon got into the swing of things. He organized the business dealings and soon discovered clues. Several projects that ruined the Fang family were related to Bai family branch companies. As he analyzed them, Shen Yaochu walked in with a lunch box. Seeing his pale face, she frowned with concern and asked, "What's wrong? Why is your face so pale?" Fang Yuan pointed at the contracts. "I don't understand why her uncles and relatives would want to harm our family." Shen Yaochu read them, her expression turning cold. "The Bai family loves infighting. They probably thought you would marry her and took this path to ruin your family." She paused and added, "Bai Ningbin must have known the Fang family was struggling." He Qiang gave a self-deprecating smile. Bai Ningbin's attention all these years was entirely on He Qiang. Even after he went abroad, she sent him money on time. She had no mind for the Fang family, but this proves my parents' decisions were not the problem. All afternoon, Shen Yaochu helped him analyze the investment data until everything was thoroughly cleared up. Only then did Fang Yuan. He breathed a sigh of relief. "Let's take wedding photos tomorrow afternoon," Shen Yaochu invited. "The day after, I have a meeting tomorrow." Okay, these days, Fang Yuan and her got along very well. The woman's emotional intelligence was high and her love for him was unconcealed. This comfort was 1,000 times better than his selfless devotion to Bai Ningbin. Meanwhile, Bai Ningbin arrived in Fang Yuan's city and immediately ordered an investigation into Fang Yuan's current status. At dusk, Bai Ningbin looked at the files with a gloomy face. The investigation showed that Fang Yuan and Shen Yaochu were living together, almost inseparable as they went out and returned together. Bai Ningbin read the report several times and suddenly slammed it onto the table. Fortunately, it didn't mention a marriage certificate. She still had a chance. After all, Fang Yuan wouldn't be so impulsive in just a few days. Immediately, Bai Ningbin struck a deal with the U Group's president. He would take her along when he went to the Fang Group to discuss cooperation tomorrow. He would support the U Group's domestic development later. The next morning, Bai Ningbin specially dressed up in a beautiful gray suit skirt. He checked the mirror several times to ensure perfection before leaving. At the Fang Group, after the morning meeting, the secretary reminded him. "President Fang, the U Group's president scheduled a meeting for 10. He's in the conference room." Fang Yuan took a sip of coffee, grabbed the files and walked toward the conference room. Inside, Bai Ningbin sat nervously, looking at Fang Yuan's photo on her phone with nostalgic eyes. Soon, footsteps were heard outside and the door opened slowly. Bai Ningbin felt the world go silent as she looked expectantly at the man in a black suit with a new hairstyle and a smile. "Fang Yuan." Fang Yuan's brows furrowed slightly before he could react. The woman hugged him. A faint scent of perfume filled his nose. Bai Ningbin held him tightly, her voice trembling. "Fang Yuan, I finally found you." As Fang Yuan was about to push her away, Shen Yaochu, who had come to deliver fruit, pulled her off first. Then she pulled Fang Yuan behind her. She looked at Bai Ningbin with cold, sharp eyes, her aura becoming dangerous. "Bai Ningbin, after all the harm you've done to Fang Yuan, how do you have the face to show up here?" Bai Ningbin was stunned, wanting to explain she had initially mistaken him for someone else, but Fang Yuan said coldly, "Wait, Yaochu, let me clear the room first." He didn't want his private matters to become public. Fang Yuan looked at the silent President Yu coldly. "President Yu, the Fang family will no longer have any business dealings with the Yu family. Please leave." Shen Yaochu added coldly, "The Shen family family will also cancel cooperation. Goodbye. President Yu turned pale. The secretary gestured for them to leave. Soon, only Fang Yuan, Shen Yaochu, and Bai Ningbin remained in the office. Bai Ningbin looked at Fang Yuan sitting next to Shen Yaochu. Seeing his cold face, her heart felt as if it were being squeezed and twisted painfully. Fang Yuan used to look at her gently with eyes full of love. After a long silence, Bai Ningbin finally said, Fang Yuan, I've aborted the child and punished He Qiang. Won't you come back? Shen Yaochu scoffed. The Bai family really is thick-skinned. Bai Ningbing actually had the nerve to come and ask for a reconciliation. Fang Yuan looked at her coldly and said, we are finished. I assume you've seen that farewell letter. Bai Ningbing asked with red eyes and resentment, do you have no love for me at all now? No, Fang Yuan replied, looking at her expressionlessly and calmly. From the moment I knew you hid it from me and donated my bone marrow to He Qiang, I stopped loving you. The following 7 days were my desensitization phase. The moment I wrote that farewell letter, I never wanted to see you again. Thinking back, Bai Ningbing was the first woman he had loved with all his heart. Influenced by his parents' love, his simple-minded subconscious felt that if he treated someone with sincerity, they would reciprocate with sincerity. To say he never loved Bai Ningbing would be a lie. After all, he had endured those 5 difficult years of disability by her side. But just as he wanted to marry her, she hurt him again and again for He Qiang's sake. Everything that happened recently was more than anyone could take. He even felt a bit disgusted by her now. Fang Yuan didn't say anything harsh, yet Bai Ningbing's face turned deathly pale. Bai Ningbing, no matter how you beg me now, I won't look back. We've already missed our chance. Let's be strangers from now on. After Fang Yuan finished, he didn't look at her and took Shen Yaochu's hand to leave the room. Bai Ningbing watched Fang Yuan's heartless back and wanted to chase him, but the secretary blocked the door. She could only stand there and watch them leave. Shen Yaochu stayed in the office with Fang Yuan all day. When he finished work, Bai Ningbing followed him in her car, but he ignored her completely. In the evening, the butler approached them with a tablet and said hesitantly, Sir, madam, there is a woman kneeling at the villa entrance with documents. She refuses to leave. Fang Yuan glanced at the surveillance. Bai Ningbing was kneeling at the gate, holding car purchase contracts in her left hand, and a sign in her right with 18 words. Fang Yuan, I've ordered 3 sports cars you like. Please forgive me. Even more exaggeratedly. 2 people behind her held a banner. Give me another chance, okay? Please give me an ex-revival armor. Fang Yuan frowned slightly, his heart unmoved. Ignore her. The next morning, the weather turned dark and a heavy downpour began. Bai Ningbing was soaked through, looking miserable without her usual pride. Fang Yuan quickly got into Shen Yaochu's car after coming out. At the villa gate, Bai Ningbing watched the Porsche drive away, her eyes full of sorrow. Previously, if she was even slightly down, Fang Yuan would be frantic. Now she had been in the rain all morning, but he didn't even look at her. In just half a month, his attitude had changed completely. At Fang Group, Fang Yuan finished his morning meeting. The secretary entered with a car contract. Fang Yuan felt a flash of annoyance, thinking it was Bai Ningbing bothering him again. The secretary smiled and placed it before him. President Fang, Miss Shen had this sent over. His phone vibrated. It was his friend Lao Yang. A Yuan, Shen Yaochu is amazing. She specifically called to ask me what sports cars you like. I mentioned the incredibly expensive Pagani, and she ordered it without a second thought. She really cares about you. Fang Yuan took a photo of the contract and posted it to his moments with the caption, the garage is nice too. In the afternoon, they went for wedding photos. Bai Ningbing followed them in and looked at Fang Yuan with red eyes. Fang Yuan, why won't you accept the cars I bought but you accept hers? Fang Yuan looked at her and smiled sarcastically. Because I said I don't want to see you again, so naturally I don't want to accept anything you give me. Bai Ningbing, didn't you always want to marry He Qiang and have children? Now, I made room for He Qiang, so shouldn't you marry him immediately? He was also slow to realize that while he was taking care of the disabled Bai Ningbing, she was still sending money to He Qiang abroad. Hearing about such devotion made even him feel moved. Bai Ningbing's watery eyes dimmed as if they had lost their light. She stepped forward, trying to hug Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan, it's all He Qiang's fault. He deceived me. He was the one who saved me. I mistakenly thought he was you. That's why I was so good to him all these years. Now, know the truth, whether in our youth or now, the person I love has always been you. Can we be together again? She paused, her voice carrying a hint of a sob. Think about how happy we were before. Fang Yuan dazed for a few seconds, remembering the past. In fact, in the beginning, father and mother Bai looked down on him and didn't approve of her being with him. They wholeheartedly hoped Bai Ningbing would find a man of equal social status, but he always tried to work hard to get closer to the person he loved. In those days, he had always lived uneasily. He was always worried that he wasn't good enough for Bai Ningbing and couldn't keep her heart. He was always worried she would rekindle her old flame with He Qiang and that the Bai family wouldn't like him. Fang Yuan took a step back to avoid Bai Ningbing's touch, his handsome face cold. Bai Ningbing, regardless of whether He Qiang lied to you, you are fundamentally not a loyal person. You were disabled for 5 years and I took care of you for 5 years. Even if there's no merit, there was hard work. But after you recovered, recovered and He Kiang returned home due to illness. You didn't consult me and hid the fact that you donated my bone marrow to He Kiang. This behavior of yours is truly hateful. You are actually quite heartless and selfish. You simply don't value my life. You manipulated these things in secret and then proposed to me afterward just because you wanted to have two men at the same time. Tell me, how could I still dare to love such a selfish and heartless person like you? Bai Ningbing opened her mouth, wanting to say something but couldn't utter a word for a long time. Her shoulders slumped and she looked disheveled like someone who had been abandoned. Fang Yuan ignored her and turned to go inside with Shen Yaochu for wedding photos. In the evening, Fang Yuan received a video call from Lao Yang. In the video call, Lao Yang pointed at the local news on the computer. Fang Yuan, did you see? A huge scandal broke out in the He family. Fang Yuan looked at the video of the local news headline. The He family faces bankruptcy. Father He is selling his son for business. Lao Yang shook his head and clicked his tongue. He Kiang's father is really ruthless. The Bai family cut off business ties with the He family and several large companies followed suit by withdrawing investments. Now the He family is just an empty shell. Although Father He is incompetent, he is a ruthless man. To stabilize the family, he actually came up with the idea of selling his son, announcing a starting price of 1 million with the highest bidder winning. I heard He Kiang tried to escape several times after finding out but was caught by Father He. Fang Yuan looked down, his voice indifferent. Heaven has eyes. Evil is punished with evil. He doesn't pity He Kiang at all. The suffering he endured because of He Kiang recently was much worse than He Kiang's current desperate situation. If it wasn't for his good luck, he might have been lying in the hospital forever because of the bone marrow donation. Meanwhile, Bai Ningbing still refused to give up. To win back Fang Yuan, she created a live streaming account broadcasting every day from 9 to 11 a.m. The theme was winning back my ex-boyfriend. A Bai Corporation CEO live streaming to chase her husband. This was a spectacle. The number of viewers in the room surged to 100,000. Some uninformed netizens were curious about how they separated. To show her sincerity, Bai Ningbing explained the reason for Fang Yuan's departure in detail. The reaction of the netizens was completely different from what she expected. Very few people offered advice to her. Instead, they all stood up for Fang Yuan. To be honest, I'm on Fang Yuan's side this time. Anyone would find the things Bai Ningbing did unbearable, so frustrating. Why did I see this stupid live stream of this crazy couple in the morning? They should just stay together forever or die. The comments are full of insults toward Bai Ningbing. With a grim face, she toughed out the 2-hour broadcast. The next day, netizens were waiting early for her to start, but no one expected her to speak directly. The netizens who can provide good reconciliation advice, she promised a reward of 1 million per suggestion. At first, the netizens were skeptical, but thinking of the Bai family's wealth, they changed from yesterday's mockery to offering advice. In my view, his heart was completely broken by you. You can only empathize if you experience what he went through. Just punishing He Kiang is useless. You are actually one of the accomplices. If you ask me, there must be a formal apology to be considered real. She seriously browsed the suggestions and chose 5. She picked 5 that seemed feasible. For the next half-month, she didn't stream. Netizens initially thought her pursuit of reconciliation was just a whim, but half a month later, Bai Ningbing started broadcasting again. In the stream, her appearance shocked the netizens. Her head was wrapped in bandages and her face was pale and bloodless as if she had undergone major torment. It turned out that during the missing half-month, she had experienced all the grievances that Fang Yuan had suffered. After experiencing these things, she was filled with regret. She looked at the camera with red eyes. I finally understand why Fang Yuan was determined to leave me. I am truly sorry to him. Her actions earned her some respect from the netizens who were initially dissatisfied. The tone of the comments shifted. Bai Ningbing is, after all, a super CEO-level woman. To win back her husband, she is willing to be so cruel to herself. It seems she is sincere. As the saying goes, among rich men, few are faithful. Similarly, there are many unfaithful rich women. It's good if she can change. Fang Yuan should forgive her. I disagree. I have inside information. He Kiang has done many dirty things over the years and she has always cleaned up his mess. And during those years, Fang Yuan was accompanying the disabled Bai Ningbing. That means she was two-timing long ago. This last comment was soon buried among tens of thousands of other comments. Some netizens began shipping her and Fang Yuan, even naming the couple Ningzhang Zhuding. She continued to stream daily, and the internet was full of clips of her sweet memories with Fang Yuan. All of this was seen. My Fang Yuan, he didn't expect she would use the power of public opinion to force him to reconcile, so he created a new social media account. That day, he posted an official announcement, a photo of his marriage certificate with Shen Yaochu. The caption read, "Something to do, someone to love, and something to expect." Once the wedding photo was posted, it quickly went viral. She was still streaming when she saw the comments flooding the screen. Fang Yuan and Shen Yaochu are married. Wait, isn't Shen Yaochu the famous cold goddess? She got married. Shen Yaochu also announced it, saying she's happy to marry the person she's loved since childhood. How romantic! Seeing the comments, her mind went blank for a few seconds. Then, with trembling hands, she picked up her phone and opened the trending topics. The moment she saw their marriage certificate, she felt like she had been drenched in cold water, as if falling into an ice cellar. Yet, she still didn't give up and face the camera. She insisted, "He's just acting on impulse. I'll wait for him to get divorced." By evening, these words reached Shen Yaochu's ears. Shen Yaochu had let her cause trouble online before, but at Bai Ningbing's remark about waiting for his divorce, she decided that night to declare war on the Bai family. Any company that proactively terminated contracts with Bai Ningbing could negotiate terms with the Shen family. Bai Ningbing also began to compete secretly. He frantically lowered prices on businesses opposing the Shen family. Their actions instantly piqued the curiosity of those in the circle, and many families began to gossip. They heard it was over a man. Now that the two families were fighting, it benefited those small companies. However, the Shen family had always been gentle and elegant. This was the first time they did something like this. If your man was about to be stolen, wouldn't you be angry? The struggle between the two families caused a sensation and soon reached Elder Bai. He was so angry that he left the nursing home and took a private plane straight to Bai Ningbing's office in Country A at this time. Bai Ningbing was on the phone. She was competing with Shen Yaochu for a company's cooperation. The company wasn't big, but the two were just competing. Elder Bai walked into the office and picked up his cane. The strike landed on Bai Ningbing. You bastard, to cause such a scene over a man. The last bit of dignity the Shen and Bai families have maintained for years has been completely destroyed by you. Elder Bai's chest rose and fell with anger, and he almost couldn't catch his breath. Since last year his health had been poor and he moved into a nursing home this year. He gradually relinquished power to the young people, especially Bai Ningbing. As his most beloved granddaughter, he had high hopes for her. Her power was the greatest. Over the years, even the achievements Bai Ningbing made during her disability were beyond the reach of her peers in their lifetime. Yesterday, hearing about what Bai Ningbing had been doing lately, he nearly fainted from anger. Bai Ningbing lowered her head slightly, her watery eyes filled with sorrow. Grandfather, I'm sorry, but I don't want to give up on Fang Yuan. Bang! Elder Bai's cloudy eyes narrowed fiercely, and another strike of the cane landed on Bai Ningbing. Having held a high position for a long time, he was usually a man of few words, but now he spoke a great deal. Neil, our Bai family and the Shen family are century-old enemies because of our ancestors. That's right, but it was only in business and social relations that we didn't interact. We never had such an embarrassing scene. Now you are bullying that Fang family child and making it known to everyone. Where do I hide my old face? These past few days to fight Shen Yaochu. Bai Ningbing had slept for less than 2 hours a day. The consecutive strikes made her dizzy and her legs weak, nearly making her faint right there. Ignoring the pain, she walked to Elder Bai and knelt to beg. Grandfather, could you help me invite Fang Yuan out? He's soft-hearted. If you invite him, he will definitely come out. Elder Bai looked at his usually proud granddaughter kneeling before him for the first time, a complex look appearing in his cloudy eyes. If the condition for me to invite Fang Yuan out is to strip you of your position as the Bai family successor, would you be willing? Bai Ningbing didn't hesitate. She nodded and said, I am willing. Elder Bai took a deep breath and nodded under Bai Ningbing's expectant gaze. Fine. Bai Ningbing kowtowed 3 times. Just as she stood up, perhaps due to staying up late and the beating, she instantly fainted. One must know that Bai Ningbing's physical fitness used to be very strong. How could she faint from just a few strikes? Elder Bai felt distressed after all. He waved his hand and signaled the butler to urgently send Bai Ningbing to the hospital. After Bai Ningbing fainted, she felt as if she was in a dream. In the dream, she returned to 5 years ago when Fang Yuan accompanied her to Lingshuan Temple to make a wish. Bai Ningbing suddenly hugged Fang Yuan, who was writing a wish slip, and said anxiously, Fang Yuan, I'll take you to get married now. Let's have the wedding tomorrow, okay? Fang Yuan shook his head and pushed. Pushing her away, I don't want to marry you, you will betray me. I want to make a wish now to never see you again for all eternity. Bai Ningbing's body trembled as she grabbed his hand and pleaded with red eyes, I won't betray you, I've already changed. She tried to reach out and hug Fang Yuan, but he retreated a few steps. He sneered at her and vanished like a wisp of smoke. Bai Ningbing cried out in grief. This was the first time she truly felt the heart-wrenching pain. After a long while, she slowly opened her eyes as the pungent smell of disinfectant hit her. Elder Bai looked at her and said hoarsely, I called Fang Yuan. He said he can meet you, but only on the condition that he brings Shen Yaochu along. However, he is busy these days and will only be free at noon in 3 days. After a pause, Elder Bai narrowed his cloudy eyes, exuding an aura of natural authority. Are you sure you want to see him? If you agree, I will now publicly announce the stripping of your status as heir. Bai Ningbing, you are unfaithful and cannot let go. Someone like you is not good material to be an heir. This was the second time Elder Bai asked. Bai Ningbing knew the consequences of her persistence, but she still insisted, Grandpa, I want to see him. Without him, I'll die. That night, Elder Bai announced that Bai Ningbing was no longer the heir. When Fang Yuan heard the news, he was having dinner with Shen Yaochu. Lao Yang called. Fang Yuan, did you hear the gossip? Elder Bai just announced that Bai Ningbing is no longer the heir. It seems old man Bai is completely disappointed in her. Fang Yuan's eyes flickered and his movement of drinking soup paused when Elder Bai called him this morning. He had completely humbled himself. He first apologized for Bai Ningbing's behavior, then sincerely hoped to arrange a meeting so that Bai Ningbing could completely give up hope. Fang Yuan knew very well that since the Bai and Shen families were in such a mess, if he didn't step in, the relationship between them might continue to worsen. So he agreed to Elder Bai's request to meet Bai Ningbing, on the condition that he brought Shen Yaochu along. Fang Yuan lowered his eyes and said softly, I heard that when Elder Bai was young, he single-handedly saved the declining Bai family. He certainly has his brilliance in managing people. On the other end, Lao Yang agreed. There's more gossip. The He family sold He Qiang to a 50-year-old woman for 7 million recently. That woman is wrinkled and wealthy. He Qiang was forced to marry her. I heard that on the day they registered. He went crazy several times until the police came. Netizens even captured photos of him crying at the Civil Affairs Bureau. He cried heart-wrenchingly and pitifully. No wonder the rich woman liked him. Before Fang Yuan could speak, Shen Yaochu put a chicken wing in his bowl and smiled. A pitiable person. Must have a hateful side. He's crying heart-wrenchingly now, but there's more crying to come. 3 days later, the meeting time arrived. Bai Ningbing wasn't idle either. To show her resolve, she had a lawyer draw up a contract to transfer all her properties and luxury cars. It only needed Fang Yuan's signature for everything to be transferred to him. Then she studied Fang Yuan's preferences and did her homework. By the time she finished, it was already the 3rd day. Bai Ningbing got up early to dress up and went to the appointment with Elder Bai. In a 5-star hotel suite, Bai Ningbing stared at the door expectantly, holding a Bugatti purchase contract. The waiter opened the door and 2 tall figures walked in. Fang Yuan and Shen Yaochu held hands, both wearing low-key bronze and gray outfits, radiating happiness. After sitting down, Fang Yuan looked at Elder Bai and nodded slightly. Bai Ningbing looked at Fang Yuan's cold face, her heart aching as if squeezed, making it hard to breathe. Since when? He stopped smiling at her. Bai Ningbing took out the transfer contract and a handwritten page about his preferences, her voice raspy. She said, Fang Yuan, look, I've really changed. I'm sincerely asking to get back together. Can you trust me one last time? Fang Yuan glanced at paper Bai Ningbing had written. He picked it up, quickly tore it to shreds and looked at her coldly. This paper is now shredded. Can you restore it to its original state? Bai Ningbing clenched her trembling hands and spoke. Everyone makes mistakes. Can't you give me a chance? I don't want to. You aren't worth it. Fang Yuan spoke calmly. Recalling the events from a month ago, he said faintly, Bai Ningbing, I really did love you, but now I really don't love you anymore. He appeared gentle and often compromised, but once he made a decision, it would not change. Even if he hadn't met Shen Yaochu after leaving Bai Ningbing, he would have chosen to live alone. Bai Ningbing's face grew increasingly pale. Fang Yuan continued, I really hope that for the sake of those 5 years I cared for you, you won't disturb me again. We really shouldn't meet anymore. After speaking, Fang Yuan ignored Bai Ningbing's expression. He looked at the silent Elder Bai. Grandpa Bai, the words that needed to be said I have finished. Yaochu's side won't make any more moves. Please also remember what you promised me. That day when Elder Bai called to ask him to meet Bai Ningbing, he had actually made 2 requests. One was to bring Shen Yaochu and the other was for Elder Bai to manage Bai Ningbing so she wouldn't pester him. Elder Bai's cloudy eyes drooped slightly, a hint of regret surfacing. He had lived long and was a good judge of character. If Fang Yuan married Bai Ningbing and she secured her position as heir, the Bai family would surely prosper. Unfortunately, she didn't have that fate. Elder Bai took a large red envelope from his bag and handed it to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan, happy wedding. This is a small token. Fang Yuan's dark eyes reddened. In the 8 years of dating Bai Ningbing, besides Bai Heiyu, Elder Bai was one of the few who truly accepted him. Fang Yuan took the envelope and said with poise, Thank you, Grandpa Bai. Sorry, I have things to do, so I'll leave now. Elder Bai nodded and finally sighed. Outside the room, before Fang Yuan could go far, Bai Ningbing came out. She looked at his back and shouted, Fang Yuan, can we have one last hug? Fang Yuan frowned, about to coldly refuse when a figure suddenly rushed out in the hallway. He Qiang saw Fang Yuan, his face twisted. He stepped forward and splashed concentrated sulfuric acid at Fang Yuan's face. Shen Yaochu frowned, wanting to run over to block it, but she was further away, paying the bill. Seeing this, Bai Ningbing took a large step and used her body to shield Fang Yuan. The acid instantly splashed onto Bai Ningbing's back and head, rapidly corroding her skin. As bone-piercing pain hit, she screamed shrilly. Fang Yuan was stunned for seconds. He walked to He Qiang and punched him. He Qiang, are you crazy? You used acid to splash people. If Bai Ningbing hadn't blocked it, he would be disfigured. He Qiang's face swelled and he looked on with resentment. The injured Bai Ningbing's voice trembled slightly. Why did you block it for him? I only wanted to splash him, not you. Fang Yuan furrowed his brows and raised his hand again to give He Qiang another heavy punch. Just wait, the Bai family won't let you off, and neither will I. The ambulance arrived quickly, and Bai Ningbing was put into the ambulance. She looked at Fang Yuan with red eyes and a weak voice. Fang Yuan, can you forgive me after this? Fang Yuan looked at the bleeding Bai Ningbing. Just as he was about to speak, she fainted heavily. 3 days later, Fang Yuan heard that her condition was not good. At that time, to protect Fang Yuan, the back of her head was splashed with acid. She had a severe infection in the hospital and is now in the ICU, just as Fang Yuan expected. Old man Bai didn't let He Qiang go. He hired top lawyers to sue him, and Fang Yuan also returned to Lin Cheng. He asked the maid to be a witness and sued He Qiang for the vase incident. He was ultimately sentenced to 30 years in prison. Since this happened, Fang Yuan had no heart for the wedding. Shen Yaochu understood and announced the postponement. A few days later, Fang Yuan received a call from old man Bai. His aging voice was trembling. Fang Yuan, come see Bai Ningbing one last time. She is dying. Fang Yuan's mind went blank as he looked at Shen Yaochu. Shen Yaochu saw his helplessness and said, go see her, no matter What she did, she saved your life, you won't regret it. On the way, Fang Yuan looked out the window, his mind a mess. He no longer loved her and even hated her, but she had saved him. In the private hospital ward, Fang Yuan looked at Bai Ningbing on the bed. She looked like withered wood, her face pale and her breathing weak. Seeing Fang Yuan, Bai Ningbing suddenly smiled. It was her first smile in days. She motioned for him to come over, patted his hand, and said weakly, Fang Yuan, don't cry. I'm sorry, I was wrong and I sincerely apologize now. Don't feel guilty about my departure, if possible, could you hug me once more? Fang Yuan leaned down and hugged her, his voice hoarse. Don't die, Grandpa, Bai needs you, Bai Ningbing chuckled. She looked at Shen Yaochu and then at Fang Yuan reluctantly. Happy wedding, my Fang Yuan, I truly hope you're always happy. Finally, Fang Yuan walked out with red eyes. Shen Yaochu stood in the hallway and hugged him as he cried, don't blame yourself, it's not your fault. That night the Bai family announced Bai Ningbing's passing. 3 days later was her funeral. Fang Yuan and Shen Yaochu went together, both dressed in black. Looking at the coffin, Fang Yuan said with red eyes, find a better man in your next life, Bai Ningbing, I wish you happiness. A year later, Fang Yuan and Shen Yaochu held their racing-themed wedding. Shen Yaochu had prepared for 2 months. For this wedding, Shen Yaochu followed Fang Yuan's wishes and only invited close friends and family. During a toast by the bride and groom, Shen's father looked at Fang Yuan and patted his shoulder. Yaochu told us a few days ago that because of your previous relationship you might not want children yet, so we won't bring it up. She will discuss it with you. As it goes, Fang Yuan looked at the exquisite Shen Yaochu in her white wedding dress. She smiled warmly at him. Fang Yuan's heart felt warm. Dad, I've moved on. Regarding children, I'll listen to Yaochu. Fang Yuan walked to his mother. Beside him, Fang's mother was already sobbing uncontrollably into a small handkerchief. When you were 3, I thought this day would come, but now that it's actually here, Mom still can't bear to let you go. Even the usually calm and composed Father Fang had red eyes. Fang Yuan looked at his parents, caught between laughter and tears. Other families cry when their daughters marry, but in his family, the elders were crying over welcoming a daughter-in-law. That day, news of the wedding between the Fang and Shen families instantly trended, and netizens flocked to social media to offer their blessings. Sob, I heard President Shen was Fang Yuan's goddess since youth. I'm so jealous. That's also because Fang Yuan cut his losses in time, those 8 years of trashy relationship couldn't be let go by just anyone. President Shen is so warm and thoughtful. I heard the wedding venue was decorated exactly how Fang Yuan likes. Another day of envying someone else's relationship. The President Shen mentioned upstairs is giving away money on the other platform. Hurry and enter the code. A week later, Shen Yaochu accompanied Fang Yuan to the prison where He Qiang was. After speaking with the warden, Fang Yuan soon saw He Qiang. He Qiang wore loose prison clothes and had lost a lot of weight. His eyes were sunken with dark circles. The once handsome man now looked nearly 20 years older. When He Qiang saw that the person visiting was Fang Yuan, a surge of rage rose within him. He sized Fang Yuan up, desperately wanting to find some sense of superiority over him, but the Fang Yuan before him, under Shen Yaochu's loving care, radiated the word happiness from head to toe. He Qiang couldn't find a single detail suggesting Fang Yuan was doing poorly, his hands hanging by his sides, clenched into fists, his face full of resentment. Why should he serve 30 years in prison while Fang Yuan lived a carefree and wonderful life outside? Noticing He Qiang's jealous gaze, Fang Yuan held up the recent financial reports of the Fang Group through the glass for He Qiang to see. See that, after a year of my hard work, the Fang Group has turned a profit. Pausing, he took out his phone and opened the photos of his wedding with Shen Yaochu from a week ago. Yaochu and I got married. Actually, I should thank you. If you hadn't tirelessly shared those TikToks day and night, telling me about everything Bai Ningbing did for you, perhaps my resolve to leave her wouldn't have been so strong. Who would have thought I'd marry my goddess from youth? When netizens found out we married, they were all unanimously sending their blessings. Fang Yuan spoke with a triumphant tone. Shen Yaochu turned her head to look at her man, her delicate face full of doting affection. She had never seen this infuriatingly sharp side of Fang Yuan before. Her man was truly adorable. He Qiang's jealous eyes were about to spit fire. In his eyes, Fang Yuan was inferior to him in every way. It was only because he went abroad and left Bai Ningbing that Fang Yuan found an opening to briefly have her. But why would Bai Ningbing be willing to block concentrated sulfuric acid for such an ordinary, submissive man, and why would Shen Yaochu want to marry him? He Qiang narrowed his eyes and sneered. Fang Yuan, no matter how much you bragged, you can't deny one thing. I received your bone marrow, and that's why I'm alive and well now. In the dead of night, whenever You think of this, you probably can't sleep from anger, right? Shen Yaochu's eyes flared with rage. Just as she was about to explode, Fang Yuan grabbed her hand and gently rubbed it. Then he looked at the smug He Qiang behind the glass with a smile. Since you have no conscience at all, I feel relieved. I heard that in prison you're being bullied. If I were to meet with that fat male inmate later to ask him to look after you, before Fang Yuan could finish, He Qiang's face turned deathly pale. He glared at Fang Yuan and cursed, "Don't you dare." Fang Yuan turned to look at Shen Yaochu and they smiled at each other. Before coming to the prison, they had investigated and found that He Qiang was not having a good time in prison. These male inmates, upon learning that He Qiang was there for throwing concentrated sulfuric acid on by Ningbing and harming the person who once gave him bone marrow, began to isolate him, and that fat male inmate's favorite thing to do was to force He Qiang to starve. Perform racing. Didn't you call yourself Wu Jiu? Perform racing for me to see. Every time He Qiang was called, he would get up brokenly and cowardly to perform. Fang Yuan curled his thin lips with a full smile. I definitely dare. He Qiang, you must live well. I will come to visit you every few months. After saying this, Fang Yuan ignored He Qiang's shouting behind him. He turned to talk with the warden, wanting to see a male prisoner named Wang Gang. That night when He Qiang was performing racing without food, another layer of difficulty was added. The fat prisoner Wang Gang pointed at him and said sternly, Mr. Fang said Wu Jiu can do the divine dragon's tail and also corner overtaking. Come on, didn't you call yourself Wu Jiu? Perform it for me. 3 years later, Shen Yaochu was giving birth. Fang Yuan waited outside the delivery room holding a bouquet of sun flowers. 5 hours later, the baby was pushed out by the nurse. Fang Yuan didn't even look at the baby, and even Fang's mother didn't look at the baby. She nervously grabbed the nurse and asked, "Where is my daughter-in-law?" Seeing a mother-in-law so concerned for the first time, the nurse was stunned and said, "Don't worry, both mother and son are safe. The mother is behind." When Shen Yaochu was finally pushed out, Fang Yuan rushed forward, looking at the pale and weak Shen Yaochu on the hospital bed for the first time. His eyes turned red in front of her. "Yaochu, I'll go get a vasectomy tomorrow. We won't have any more." Mother Shen also had red eyes, wiping her tears. "Yes, no more, it's too painful." Shen Yaochu looked at the red-eyed Fang Yuan and gave him a weak smile. "Don't cry, Fang Yuan." Fang Yuan leaned down and kissed her cheek. "Thank you for giving birth to a baby for me. I love you, Yaochu."